And we are live, my brother. What's
Little
up?
late today.
Hey?
Little late. You had a birthday party,
Oh,
right?
dude, I had a
Was it
birthday
your birthday
yesterday.
party?
No. Was my birthday yesterday. So we went out for dinner. Grace and I went out for dinner, and then came home and got stuck on the couch watching Grant Countdown. And I think I went to bed like 12:30 or something like that. And this morning I was like comatized. But other than that, doing really, really well. And how are you, brother? We didn't see each other for a couple of weeks. I was away for my retreat, and yeah, man, missed you last week for sure.
Yeah, I'm all psyched to hear about your retreat and what revelations you had and everything good with me.
That is awesome. Great. Retreat was awesome, man. We had 5 people coming, six people drinking medicine. We're talking about shamanic retreat, practicing Indian shamanic practice. So old practice, 3,500 years old practice. We had 6 people show up, and five drank medicine. One couldn't because of medications and things like that. But we served the person in a different way, which was absolutely amazing. So I always say it's not all in the cup. People, especially in this day and age, like with psychedelics and all of that kind of stuff. People get drawn to the experience rather than what this work actually does for you. And so we don't do psychedelic experiences. We actually go through a old fashioned way to arrive to our soul in using ancient practices. So we don't do that on a couch listening to music and ingesting anything like that. We do that in a very controlled space that is ancient. And so what comes from that, obviously, people go through a journey. There's 3 ceremonies people go through. Usually it's Tuesday night, a night ceremony, and then Thursday day and Saturday day with a day in between to rest and recover. And during those times, we have sharing circles and making sure that people, are able to integrate what's coming for them, what's going on, and all of those things. But I'm telling you, man, I've been doing this now for a long, long time, and I've seen many, many people come through. But man, every single time it's just incredible what comes up. And it's funny because at the beginning, especially if someone is new and just starting out, everybody comes with an expectation, even though we don't ask. We ask them to leave the expectations at home because it can interfere with your process. But it's human nature that we all have expectations. And so when people come, especially in the first day, they're waiting for something to happen and stuff like that. Yet the work we do is very much introspective and as much on the outside with expression. So what we want to do is people to open up that energy center, also known as throat chakra, but and let out what's in there and let out the things that perhaps need to be said or need to be processed and so on. So it's a very cathartic experience. And in the first day everything is new for some that have never done this. And so there's expectations, there's not knowing, am I doing this right, am I not doing this right, and so on. But then you see the progress over the week, and by the end of the day, Sunday morning when we all ready to pack and go back home, and we have our last sharing circle, the thing that come out is freaking incredible,
Right.
because it truly does change your life. I mean, I should better say this: the experience, the retreat is not what changes your life. What changes your life if you embrace and make a part of your life what you learned in the
Right.
retreat. I always say the ceremony starts on Monday morning. This is only rehearsal. This is easy. Even when a journey can be very challenging, and people, this work is very powerful, and you will get challenged at times. but that's the easy part. The experience can last anything between 8 hours and 14 hours. But eventually it's finished, and you go back to you go back to yourself in a way. What happened though on Monday, we go back to reality, and that's when the work now comes into place. The difference between a psychedelic experience that the world is so much about right now is we don't flee into this work because the world is overwhelming and we just want to hang out with our buddies and ingest a bunch of stuff and just be out. What we do is we consciously, there's my cat, brother. She has been really unwell, but now she's coming back. Freaking, I'm so proud of this cat. What we do is not flee from the normal world, from the everyday world, because this is where we live, and we only enter that parallel world, if you wish, to learn something new, to learn about ourselves, to learn, how can I heal? How can I understand what happened in my life? Or how can I understand what my next chapter is in my life now? So it's never an escape route. It's literally to dive deeper into the things that really are going on in our lives. And oftentimes I'm on podcasts where people are more into the psychedelic experiences, and everybody's about bragging about the experiences. The ancient work, the work that still is done today in South America, Central America, with the elders, the elderly shamans and things, that practitioners of this art. It's nothing about bragging. It's nothing about being seen. We all dress normally from every day. You know what I mean? There's no mala beads. There's no fancy name. There's nothing. There's just a human being that lives life according to what life is about. Family and everything else. Where oftentimes we see in this new, this pseudo spirituality, where everybody's enlightened because they had I don't know, whatever experience, mushroom experience or whatever else they ingest today. This is not about that. This is about being real. This is about doing some work, bring it back home, share it with the family, not sharing it as a lecturing way, like you often see, the world we live in, with this constant bragging about this experience, this psychedelic experience, and I saw that, and then this goblet came along, and this alien came along, and then this the patterns and the it's a delusion. It literally is. In shamanism, that is actually what represents the distractions of life. You should never get caught into those things, because those things are just taking you away from what actually the work is about. The work happens in stillness. The work happens in that moment of introspection. And a vision is very different than a hallucination. A hallucination is usually brought up by a psychedelic component. Yet the vision is completely different. The vision comes from stillness. A vision does not come from a hallucination. Hallucination is usually what people crave, most people. Yet when you go through this process, go through these practices, you very fast understand that is just another distraction. And all you got to do is just come back or go through the curtain, and go and see what's on the other side. So, and from the people we had, this time around, man, just, the results were freaking amazing, from people. I remember on day one, there were two ladies talking about, one was talking about parents and stuff like that, a bit of a challenging situation with parents. and so on. And the other person was just shutting it down the constant time. Yeah, fuck them, fuck them, they should
Right.
take care of themselves. You could see that anger within her. And what this work does, always brings the right people together, and it's always fascinating to see. And one person is usually a trigger for another person, and so on and so forth, right? And so I was just watching and listening, and I could see, this lady was sharing this experience, and she missed out on that component of parenting or parenthood that she craved, and I could feel that the other person did as well, but the other person was probably about when probably about actually probably about double her age. One was 26, the person I was sharing was 26, and the other lady.
Sorry, Rodolfo. Just to get clear, so who was the one talking about the parent, and who was the one being triggered? The older lady was the one being
Older
triggered.
lady was triggered, yes, absolutely. So the younger lady is 26, the older lady was probably 58, I believe. And as the young girl was sharing, young woman was sharing, the other person would constantly chime in and say, yeah, fuck them, you don't need to heal, they can heal themselves, blah blah blah, like that, right? And going through the process, there was a trait that she actually took on, the older lady took on this trait of what the father was about, right? And actually not only her, but even her daughter, right? And all of a sudden this stuff has started to come out. And all of a sudden you can see, the understanding of where she is. She's just trying to shut something down that is so painful, yet when there was a moment where, this medicine makes you feel really sick sometimes,
Right.
and she's like, oh man, I feel there's a purge coming, but I don't want to, I don't want to do that. I just want to sit. I don't want to let it out, and I'm like, you gotta heal. This is a person who had breast cancer as well, and stuff like that. So these ease come from situation you haven't resolved, and these things that are heavy within, right? And so we're going through this process, and she's struggling. She's just holding herself back from processing, and as the practice is ancient, there's many ways. How did they say? Many ways to skin a cat. So all I did is just change that energy and frequency for her on how this had to come out. So we went from, a kind of like a physical experience where a purge might have to come out. We now went this way, and all of a sudden, the tears started to flow. And man, this woman, I reckon she probably cried for over nearly 2 hours just coming out, just that moment of release,
Right.
the pain, and all of a sudden, by the end of the week, the way she spoke about her father and mother was just out of control. Absolutely, just releasing that pain and talking about her parents like they're both deceased, but with so much love and gratitude, and really understanding that she's just a copy of the father, and she's fighting her marriage in a way that he did, and how she needed to change everything. So this work is not about the psychedelic experience. This work is about really understanding, what's really going on in here, you know what I mean? And
Right.
how can I make a change that will change my life? But, we we also now have, for the next 3 weeks, we support the people through this, journey of integrating everything. And so every Wednesday we get together, and last Wednesday we just did, so a couple of days ago. And she said that she had this chat with, the daughter, and so many things are already starting to change, because as she's changing, the daughter gets this new signal from the mother, right?
Right.
The mother has her guard down now. It's not going through life like this. And the daughter is like, whoa, what's going on here? So even just in a few days, you can see that you know frequency and energy and ways are changing. So extremely powerful, man. So many things. We had another lady who 63 years old. She couldn't participate in the actual drinking of the medicine, and so we had to serve. We served her a different medicine, which is served through through the nostrils. Yet, because you are in this space, because everyone around you is going through the Wachuma experience, Wachuma being the medicine we take, that energy permeates. And so is a lady that extremely successful, doctor, has her own clinic, like high-end successful, and 5 kids, all successful, husband, surgeon, blah blah blah, all of that stuff, yet so much pain, extremely. Man, she came with a box, literally she came with a box of medications, that she needs to take every single day, some for her bodily pain, but some for her mind, right?
Right.
And so we brought her through this experience, and stayed with us for 5 nights. The retreat is 5 nights. We arrive on Tuesday, go home on Sunday. And, obviously she took a lot of time to rest, a lot of time to just sit and not do nothing for once. And man, the realizations, brother, far out. At the end of it, I remember one of the sentences that really struck me was, I am responsible for my own happiness. There's nobody that can make me happy, and I can't expect anyone to make me happy but me. And that is a 63-year-old woman who has lived many, many, many experiences, has gone through a gazillion freaking challenges, and that has been in pain for a long time. And that realization alone it will fucking transform your life, because
Right.
the craving of being seen, successful and this and that, and my kids and my husband and, the community that I'm serving, blah, 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 this constant giving, to be seen, just destroyed her, and it really reflected with me, because that's what I was, at 40 years old, running, giving, but just because I was drowning. It wasn't a giving because I give and I'm good, blah blah. I was in pieces, and so for me, giving was a way for me to feel like I mattered, and I wasn't invisible. You know what I mean?
Right.
And hearing this from her was so extremely powerful, yeah, man. So many things happen in such a short time that that leaves you you can't even, you listen and think, wow, this came out from all of this. Like, it's
Right.
crazy, right? And put it this way, this lady, the lady that I was talking to you about, the 58-year-old lady, beautiful woman, travels. This is how crazy this is, right? Travels from Melbourne. She's from Melbourne. Travels to Denver, Colorado, to attend MAFS, which is the that big convention that just happened about psychedelics and this, that, the
Right.
other, right? That just happened a month ago. Travels from Melbourne to Denver, Colorado, to this to attend this convention and listen in and whatever. Meets a guy there, is looking for someone to do an experience with, right? Meets a guy. The guy, it's freaking crazy. And the guy said, listen, if you want to do an experience, like a real proper experience, that's the guy you need to go and see. He does not know anything, where she is, what she is, there, anything,
Wait,
right?
he said that about you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That's crazy, right? So
Right.
she comes back and obviously looks me up and whatever, and reaches out and said, hey, this man, which I actually know the man, that man is a dear friend of mine, is a dear brother of mine. He was actually the first person that I have ever served medicine to, back 6 years ago. That's when I started to serve. And to have a person go across the world to look for
Right.
someone and then finding that guy saying, listen, there's one guy only that you need to see if you want to do this, and that's that guy there. It's just like, man, this is crazy, right? And so, yeah, amazing work, man. I mean, it definitely changed my life years and years ago, and having been practicing since, and now I've been serving people for 6 years. Um, yeah, it just blows my mind what comes out of it, you know. And then we had a beautiful ceremony within the ceremony on the last day, where the owners of the land where we practice, their little baby, new baby boy, and they presented we introduced the baby into the shamanic world, and we did a beautiful, beautiful blessing that is very typical for the Amazon, and just beautiful moments, brother. And yeah, there's not many words that can really explain all of this, and everything might sound very crazy, but it's freaking amazing, man, what comes from the work, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so a lot of the work I do every day, which is through my mentoring and stuff, comes from this type of work. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's my teacher. That's where I go to learn, in the deepest end of my soul, into those ancient practices. And then, kind of translate me into normal life and use them, every single day. Because that is what this is about. It's not about being blasted out with psychedelics and then brag about it. And it's silent work. Nobody knows. You know what I mean? It's quiet work. You show up, you do the work, go home, and just try to live life in a different way. Try to walk, take your steps in a different way. That's what this work is about. And a matter of fact, if you go to, and it happened to me many times when people come to our ceremonies, they're looking for the guy, the guy with that looks a specific way, you know what I mean? It's right. Like, where is the shaman? Where is this guy that's gonna guide me through this?
With the drums and everything.
Yeah, with the drums and a million necklaces and a fancy name, and flying eagle and blah blah, all this bullshit. Right. And then there is me, and I was like, it's gonna be me, and it's like, what? It's like, and yet my teachers were very old fashioned. My teacher, my older teacher now is 82. One of my teachers was 76. He passed away, in 2019. They are all normal. They all look normal. They all have normal names. They have a family. They have kids. They have grandkids. They walk the world in the same way like you and I. You will never spot them. Never. And the reason also why is because sorcery is a real thing. And, when we go really deeper down into this work, you don't really want to show what you do or who you are in that kind of sense, because especially in South America, sorcery is a real thing. And when people know who you are, what you do, and especially if you get good results, meaning that you do have a power behind you, the attacks are undeniable. They will come, and so when you see someone that talks about pseudo spirituality, all malabeated up and all like, yeah, and me and me and me and fucking this experience and that experience and those lights and this thing, run, because that's not what the work is about.
Right.
It's definitely not what this work is about. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, man, came back on last Sunday night. Yeah, it takes me a few days to recover. It's a long process. So, probably about 4 or 5 days it usually takes me, sometimes a week, depending. But I changed my diet this week, so it's actually helping me out a little bit. Yeah, I'm looking forward for the next one. So that's what's up.
So I had a few things that I had a few things I wanted to ask and also point out is that you're talking about like people bragging about their hallucinations and doing the psychedelics and like just like glorifying the experience rather than the depths of that they can take you to. Uh, I must have done like LSD. I don't know if LSD is still around actually. But I must have done LSD like 50 to 100 times, and I never once hallucinated when I was on LSD. I mean, and I have an interesting story actually because the most intense guy I ever tripped with was this guy at Dartmouth College. I won't, just call him Andy. That was his name, but he was like the most intense guy I ever tripped with, and so one time we were tripping and everything, and he disappeared. So I went looking for him, and I was in short. It was like I think it was summer term or late spring term, so it was like warm weather and everything. I was in shorts and a t-shirt, and I think I was like, I was really intent on playing a lot of frisbee and everything. And so anyway, I go into his best friend's room in this fraternity, and he's like pointing his fingers at his best friend and says, and like just like digging his finger into the guy's leg and saying, "You're a mosquito, you're a gnat, you're a roach," and like just saying, basically the guy's an insect and he's insignificant, and then he looks at me and says, "Why don't you ever change?"
Wow.
So and then I mean, just to continue the story, I say, "Come on, Andy, let's play frisbee." So, this guy like loved like seeing how I could catch a frisbee. So I would like line up with him, and he'd throw the frisbee as far as he could, and he'd see if I could like catch up with it. So so we're playing frisbee and on this long driveway in front of this fraternity at Dartmouth, and he's making me run back and forth and everything, and this is just like an example of his personal power. But so he like flings it, and I'm just like, well, I'm tripping too. I'm just like saying I'm not going to run after that. I like follow the path to the frisbee, goes all the way down the driveway, and one of his best friends from his fraternity drives up in a convertible and catches the frisbee at the end of the driveway. And so it's like, wow, that was unbelievable, But that was just. But point is, I never hallucinated. I only had one hallucination in my life, and I was completely straight. And but then I got like I hammered with delusions and divine delusions and everything. And when I'd be tripping with people, I could see that they're having like divine delusion. They would like be going, and like sending thunderbolts and everything, and I'd say, let's chill out and like not have these divine delusions. And then ultimately I was like hammered and taken away because of divine delusion. But one thing I want to ask you about is you mentioned that this lady did the ceremony without the medicine, and that's what obviously if I wanted to do it, you wouldn't want to do me the medicine because of my diagnosis and the medication I'm on. And incidentally, my medication over the last like 3 to 4 years, I've reduced it radically. I've gone from 30 milligrams of my antipsychotic to 10 milligrams a day, and I've also like got off my anti-anxiety. I just like take two one is a side effect medication, and then I have my main drug, my main med. But so. And I used to take like 13 pills a day, and now I take 6, and 4 of them are for one is for blood pressure, one is for triglycerides, and then the other 2. But did I ever tell you the story about like what happened when I let somebody try my medication?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I was at Bailey Dickinson University, and and so there was this guy named Worm that was his fraternity name. His real name was like this big, nice, waspy name, you know. But everybody called him Worm, and he was like a drug expert, you know. He was always smoking and doing all sorts of shit and everything, and so he kept insisting. He said, "Let me try your medication." So I said, "No, you don't want to," you know. So finally, he just kept insisting. So I said, "Okay," because I was curious to see if it was as strong as I thought it was, because I have no way of knowing, because no matter how much I take, I don't feel it because my body's so acclimatized to it and everything. So, I say, okay, Worm, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 10 milligrams of my medication. That's like a third of my daily dosage at the time. I was taking 30 milligrams a day. So I say, okay, I'll give you 2 5 milligram pills, and I'll give you a side effect medication in case you need it. So he says, great. He's like all anticipatory and everything. I'm going to see what this shit's all about and everything. So he takes it home, and he gets on his bed, and he takes the first pill, the first 5 milligram pill, and he starts playing Nintendo, playing video games. And within 30 minutes, he realizes he can't move anything but his thumbs to play Nintendo. So it takes him 4 hours to move his arm enough to be able to get the side effect medication to get, to take the side effect medication. So after 4 hours, he manages to take the side effect medication. So then 30 minutes later, he's feeling better. So then, like an idiot, he takes the second pill. Well, Rodolfo, 18 hours paralyzed on his bed, able only to move his thumbs to play Nintendo. And this was like a third of my daily dosage. So, I mean, when people say, you're normal, and, there's nothing wrong with you. And, I always used to say to them, see me off my medication, because, my medication is really like a miracle drug for me. And, people like, in the early stages of illness, like really fight their medications because it is so strong. And, it's like, it can really like disassociate you and everything. But, but that experiment with Worm really proved to me, this isn't a placebo. This is, I mean, what it does is it regulates the flow of dopamine in the brain. So schizophrenics have too much dopamine in the brain, and without medication, what happens is their neurotransmitters just keep firing. So it's like it's like a snowball effect, and that's why people go psychotic, is because they just can't handle the power perception that their body is going through, because of because their neurotransmitters are just firing into like deeper and deeper levels of their brain. And I don't know, you must have heard this, but scientists say that we only use 10% of our brains, but with psychosis and schizophrenia, that the dopamine just like keeps firing in the brain and keeps firing those neurotransmitters, and it gets out of control. I mean, the only analogy I can that I've ever been able to like use to describe what psychosis is about is like taking a hit of acid two hits of acid every 4 hours without a tolerance buildup. It's just like the brain just like your brain can't handle it. So what the medication does is it regulates the flow of dopamine in your brain. And this is a fact that a lot of people don't know, but Parkinson's and schizophrenia are two sides of the same coin, because schizophrenics have too much dopamine in your brain, and Parkinson's don't have enough dopamine in the brain. So, so they're like mirror, illnesses and everything. But so I just wanted to, that's something that that's a story I always tell when people ask me about my medication, and why and every time I've stopped taking my medication, I'm in the hospital. This hasn't happened basically since the 1980s, but every time I stopped taking my medication, I'd be in the hospital within 2 weeks because, I still have that brain imbalance in my brain about the dopamine. And so, I meant, but it was the eye opening even to me how affected by my medication Worm was. I mean, obviously he never wanted to try it again, and
Oh, bet.
nobody who's normal who's tried my medication ever wants to try it again. So, but just like that's just like to give you an idea of like how strong this medication is, and that's why people don't want to take it when they first get sick because, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty much, I mean, obviously I can never know what another person feels, but I feel like at peace and like normal with myself and balanced and everything. But you know, when you first start taking the medication, it's like such a shock to your system and to your brain that makes you feel terrible. And you got to build up a tolerance and just let your body get used to it. And but that's just something I wanted to say. And I was also wondering, you said that 63-year-old doctor did your retreat without doing the medicine. I was just wondering, would that be a possibility for me? I mean, if I could get to Australia and do it, I mean, would that be a possibility for me to like do the retreat and have the positive effects of the ceremony without the medicine?
That's such a great question, man. Before I answer that, the super enlightening what you shared actually, and appreciated that a lot actually to understand what's going on there. And I want to point out one word that you used in sharing, and the word was tripping, right? I was tripping in the work we do. We never use that word. We never say trip. We say journey. Reason, a trip is usually very much you can anticipate a trip, right? I'm taking this is usually what's happening, right? With the journey, you don't know what's happening. Okay, so that's the two words that get exchanged between a psychedelic experience and you're going on a trip. That is kind of like you kind of know what's going to happen. Where with shamanism, the journey is pretty much every time a new journey. So if you do a retreat today and you come in a month's time and do another retreat, they will be completely different. So that's why every time I go and do this work, your little knees, they start to they start to kind of like buckle a little bit because you don't know what's happening. That anticipation is like, shit, what's in that cup today, right?
Right.
So that's the difference. Going back to your question, actually, it will be an absolute honor to serve you. Reason why, a part of you being my brother, and I love you, and it will be an honor to serve. But your approach to this work will be very, very much different than what the lady went through, meaning the lady did everything she could during this retreat, yet she was out for a long time, meaning, through her medication, through all of this stuff, sometimes probably some self-medicating along the way as well. She would sometimes just zone out and just sleep. Where I can see that if you would participate in something like that, you will be really in the ceremony and a lot amongst the people, where she very little of that time spent with the people in the actual ceremonial space, because once we served her, once we brought us through her journey, she then eventually, she had a lot of pain in her hip and this, that, the other, many, many things. So she would go back up to the lodge and lay down and just sleep and blah, blah. So I think you will get so much more out of just because you will be more in the space than what she did. In going back to, would you be able to go through the process? The answer is yes. because again, like I was saying to you, the medicine we use for people who perhaps might not be, you know, might not be suited for the actual process or the medicine that we serve. This other medicine connects to different parts of our brain, which are not dangerous for the person who perhaps has a psychosis or schizophrenia or things like that, or our medication. Now, in saying that, I open some, a bracket here and a disclaimer. We had, so the young girl that I was talking to you about it before, the young woman, the 26-year-old woman, she has been doing a lot of work with us. She's also part of my mentoring, but she has, we met on a retreat where she came out of the blue, and she joined out of the blue. And before we allow someone to come onto our retreat, we go through a lot of questioning and scrutineering and making sure that the person is fit for this work. Yet, as you might well understand, you never know if it's the truth or not. Okay, right. So you're going to take everything with a grain of salt. So this particular lady, I only was revealed about that in May, when she came back in May to one of our retreats. And what happened is, when she actually joined us for the first time, she was actually, she had psychosis. So she was suffering from psychosis, and she was losing her mind, but she didn't say that. So she actually drank medicine with the psychosis, which if she disclosed that, there was no way. Right. Yet from that moment, the psychosis left, never came back. So it's a fine line about this work, right? We are mindful about, are people psychotic? Do they have schizophrenia? Do they have already things that they, might see in a normal life? So we tend to stay away from serving people like that, just not to, endanger or enter a space that perhaps we might not know how to navigate. Yet, this is a practice who has been done 35,000 years from, long. And I'm pretty sure that there would have been psychotic people drinking this medicine along the way. And I believe that if it is a medicine, it probably is well suited for things like that. Now, in the Western world, we are a little bit more mindful because, again, you want to make sure people are safe and everything like that. Yet, when she told me that in May, she said, I really got to tell you something, and please don't be upset at me, and blah blah blah. And she said, when I came to you, I had psychosis. I would see, things and blah blah. And since then, I never had a psychotic moment ever. And that's now 2019 or 2020 when she drank the first time, which is incredible, right? I did have another gentleman who is schizophrenic, a denial schizophrenic, if you wish, that drank with us. Again, also not disclosing what was on, but thank God of my training and the awareness and all of that. When he came, I literally served him, man, the tip of a teaspoon, and for me, the amount of medicine I serve comes in that moment when the person is about to come to the table. That is the moment that what I go through and my interaction with the work, the signal comes through on how much medicine to serve. And for that gentleman, I remember when that insight came on how much to serve, I was doubting myself, like, what? Like, usually people might get, I don't know, between 4 to 6, 7 scoops. And this person gets like a tip of a tablespoon, a teaspoon. And I'm like, God, man, what? But I never challenge what I hear. I never challenge what I feel. And so that's what it was, right? But this guy was bouncing off the wall like tum, 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 like full on, right? And I understood that it wasn't from the medicine, it was really who this guy was. And eventually, we figured out that he was psychotic and had schizophrenia. Still today, extremely delusional. I don't think he's taking any medicine. Matter of fact, he's going to so many places that serve all sorts of stuff and psychedelics, and literally is frying his brain. And that's when the facilitators lack so much awareness and understanding of this work, because when he came to us, we barely served him any medicine, like
Right.
literally barely served him any medicine. And from that moment on, we always denied him to come. We always said, no, we can't serve you anymore. And we didn't even know he was psychotic, but I knew that when we finished this, I would never serve him again. And even though he came, I served him very little to nothing, really.
Right.
But I knew when he left, that was it. We will never serve him again, which brought a lot of, altercations, because, he felt denied the opportunity to heal this, that, the other. But for us, it was about safety for him and for us. Yet, we have seen on many other occasions, on other places where, the facilitators, even though, he can't fucking sit still for a second talking with you, they would invite him to their own, practices and so on. One of those was, a Bufo practitioner. Bufo is, the Sonora Desert Toad, which is extremely powerful. That's a 5-MeO DMT, and and bufotenine component containing medicine, which is extremely powerful. And that's definitely not what he should ever be served.
Right.
And I heard, him going to this place, and in 4 days, so it was a retreat that was held in over 4 days. People were served 12 times, and Bufo, which normal Bufo experience is 1 every 6 months at least,
Right. At
if
most,
not
I mean.
more.
At
Say
most.
again?
At
At most. Sorry, my bad. 1 every 6 months at most, right? And usually it's more than that, because it's so powerful and there's so much going on. Where this guy, a part of all the other ones, but I do know of 2 people who went to that place, him being one, and another guy that we know very well. They never recovered. I don't know the others, but they never recovered. One is literally bouncing off the walls every single day of his life, and the other one became so sensitive to things that even sleeping was a challenge. Every time he will go to sleep, I mean, I haven't spoken to him for a while now, but every time he will go to sleep, it's a freaking journey. His brain will just go absolutely crazy nuts. So very overwhelming and so on. So much so that this particular guy came to one of our retreats. I'm talking probably about 3 years ago now, 2020, 2021, something like that. And he sat with us on the first ceremony, and on the second ceremony, I denied him the cup. I said, you ain't going to drink today. I could see this energy coming off of him. That's my decision. And I say, no, you ain't drinking today. And I remember again, that's when the ego comes up. It's like, oh, well, I'm here to drink, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, you're not fit to drink today. You're definitely not fit to drink. And, you go this back and forth, and then you ask questions, how was dreams? How was this? How you feeling here and this? And the answer was like, you ain't fit to drink. You're too loose. And so
Right.
that's, and that's I guess the training and the amount of time you do this work and stuff like that. And it's so important. It's easy to give someone, oh yeah, here, just give this. Oh, you want, whatever. But this work is very powerful. Done in the way we do is extremely powerful, and the results we get is just because we follow a very tight guideline that has been done for thousands of years. And
Right.
my teachers were very old fashioned, and I take that with me. And of course, how we serve the ceremony is a very individual way, because you can't become a copycat of the person before, because otherwise the work gets shady, and then
Right.
it becomes a Chinese whisper, right? That all of a sudden changes happening, and then it gets out of whack. What we do is we have guidelines we need to follow that are embedded, that are carved into
Written,
stone.
written in stone.
Right, written in stone, and that's what you do. But then there is a personalized component of the way you practice the work that is more fluid, and that is what brings your flavor to the ceremony, to the practice,
Right.
right? And that is allowed. For example, my teacher would never drum, where I have a very strong connection to drumming, and there are moments within the ceremony that I do use a drum, where my teacher never used a drum before, right? So there's little nuances like that you bring to the work as a personalized way, as the way you express the work. But the guideline and the things that you need to do, you can't change any of those. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's why even this lady that came, that went to Mavs, to see the to participate in the event in Colorado. And she was, along the way, she was like, wow, man, this is so different than what they used to talk about. It's a complete different world. This is ancient. There is no room for spotlights. There's no room for blah, 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 blah. You speak very little, meaning you speak a lot about life, about you, about things that allow you to bring things up so you can heal, but very little about, oh man, I am experiencing this now, and wow, and blah. There's none of that, right? It's very introspection. And even when we share, the sharing circles that we hold, man, they're very subtle, very, the voice is barely raising. It's like so centered, and comes from such a deep place, and so deep that people often, as they share, they cry. They literally, that emotion is so strong and powerful. That realization is like, yeah, mind blowing. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, man, it's absolutely beautiful work. You know what I mean? And that's what was my week was last week. So,
Well, I just I had a couple of thoughts that came. First off, when you interviewed me on Life Artistry Mastery, when we did that primary interview, and it was an hour and 45 minutes, best interview of me I feel that was ever done. But when we put on Sober by Pink at the end of the interview, that was like really like about the first time in about 20 years that I really felt like crying. So that's just like you doing your work and everything. But one thing I want to say about like LSD and hallucinogenics and everything is when I was first admitted to the hospital after Dartmouth, my mother obviously was very concerned, and so she and I were having a discussion or a talk, and she said, did you ever do LSD? This began me on like a 30-minute diatribe about like the difference between how some people do LSD to party and to like get the hallucinations and everything, and then other people do it for the mystical or supernatural or extra sensory feelings of being in touch with the Lord, or being in touch with Source, and being one with the universe and everything. So that's basically what I explained to her. I said, basically I have done it. It was like an awkward moment. When you tell your parents that you've done LSD, especially when they hate drugs and everything, and but so I said, yeah, I've done it, and I mean, one thing. One thing that I've heard, and I feel this is true for me, is schizophrenics can't lie, unless it's like a planned lie. Because I mean, after a while, when my mother would say, "Are you still doing pot?" I would say no, just because I knew the consequences of that were too great, and I didn't want to deal with it. So that was a conscious lie. But people, when people ask me questions, I can't lie. I mean, it's just like, when my mother asked me if I'd done LSD, I could have like said no, but it's part of the schizophrenic illness. I mean, people say, when I say people schizophrenics can't lie, that's why I say they get in so much trouble, because I mean, because people ask them how they're feeling, or what they're thinking, and they tell you the truth. And that if you're psychotic and you're telling the truth, then you're going to have consequences and everything. But so my mother asked me if I'd done LSD, and I just went into I didn't lie, but I went into like a 30-minute diatribe about like the difference between the party philosophy and the mystical philosophy, and how I was like trying to bridge the two when I was doing LSD. But uh, that's neither really here nor there. But I just feel that that there is like uh, there's so much. One of my professors at Dartmouth used to say, "The world is so complex that whatever you say about it is true." That's basically one of the philosophies I've adopted. But there's so much more that's going on that you can't comprehend, or you can't really like get a grasp on until you reach a higher level of consciousness. And so ultimately, it's I mean, whether you do it through LSD, or do it through a ceremony like yours. I mean, I really respect you, obviously, Rodolfo. We do the show every week and everything. I know that you aren't a sham shaman. I know that you really have like the training and the background to be able to like lead people through these things. But there's so much sham shamanism. I mean, is it shaman or shaman?
It's shaman.
Shaman. Okay.
Yeah.
So, there's so many people like saying they're shamans these days, and it's just like the new, like I'm the new guru, I'm the new
Yeah.
shaman, and it's
Absolutely.
like, that's why I say I'm a mentor in my mental health in my mental health coaching instead of a coach, because I don't really, I don't have the background of a coach, but I do have the knowledge and the experience with the illness to be able to mentor people and help guide them through it. A coach is sort of like a cheerleader, I think, whereas a mentor is someone who helps guide you through challenges and difficulties. And the result can be the same, but the method is completely different. So that's why I say I'm a mental health mentor. And I'll never say that I'm a coach, because I'm not a coach, because I'm coming from experience. I mean, Peter Sage says, the difference between opinion and advice is an opinion is just someone's personal idea about what's true, whereas advice comes from someone who has been through what you will have to go through, and has been through the problem, and faced the challenge that you're trying to deal with. So and that's where like the same thing with me and coaching as opposed to mentors. Coach is someone who can tell you the methods to like do something and overcome things, whereas a mentor is like much more personal and focused on these are the things that you are doing, or you know that I've gone through, and this is what I would suggest you do. A mentor suggests things rather than tells things, and that you know I I'll just leave it at that.
I think you had a great point. I mean, absolutely. I feel the same way. A coach, you can learn things of a book, and then now you just regurgitate what you read, and off you go. And everybody has this thing about, I'm a coach, I'm this, I'm this, but a mentor is, yeah, absolutely completely different. Completely different. Like, that is life experience. That is what the person has experienced, has to go through, has realized, and now he can share that out of first person, right? So yeah, I definitely completely agree with you, as much as also I agree about, today everybody is a shaman, everybody is a healer, everybody is fucking a coach, and it's just crazy. And not only that, but a lot of people get hurt about it,
Right,
because of it. A lot of people get hurt because of it, because now you're in desperation, you're looking for something and someone, and then these people pop up, and usually they're very loud. um and then all of a sudden you're trapped with someone who has a greater delusion than you have, and all it is about for them is to be seen and heard and acknowledged, and this never ending cessation of wanting to be fucking seen. And that's when shit then goes wrong, you know what I mean? And that's what I struggle with connecting with that stuff. You know what I mean? Why? Because I started this journey, 13 years ago, with someone who was a charlatan. He was a fucking charlatan. And there's so much stuff came from that place. So many people, went through freaking challenges and a half because of that man. For me, I am blessed that I was so deep, so rock bottom for me, when I started this, that I had no other option. And so when I went to this person, I bypassed the person, I bypassed the people that were there, I bypassed the space, I bypassed everything. And all I wanted to, is the thing that was in the cup. And I would accept everything that was in there. And it helped me, helped me definitely my first stage of my journey, my healing and all of that. But also it taught me how to navigate those realms from a different place, and maybe made me quite resilient and quite aware. And so I always thank the person for allowing me to actually learn the hard way, as much as also obviously having had the chance to start my healing process. Yet when I went to work with the real people, I understood how far from reality that was, and how dangerous that actually was.
right,
You know what I mean? And so today, if you want to do this type of work, you got to really make your research, and where do I go, and who do I trust my head and heart to? You know what I mean? Who do I trust my mind? Because this stuff can literally, disrupt your mind, and
right.
it's not to play with.
It can send you to a place that you never come back from.
Oh, dude, it's very, very, very much so. Um, and who is the person, who is the person you're trusting yourself to when you're stepping out from this realm? Who has your back? What protections and energies are in place that will keep you safe, that will keep you in a place where when you go back home, you are the same person, or just a little bit more polished version of yourself
Right,
that left that home, and you're going back to your families and kids and friends and whatever, in a grounded place, and from a place of, um positivity, and obviously, having done some great work. You got to know, you can't just, adventure yourself into something like that. And then when shit hits the fan, the person leaves, or they don't know what to do with you, or leave you there at your own. Man, it's freaking
Well,
dangerous.
just in my own experience, why did my doctor put me in the hospital 9 times? Because he
Mm,
couldn't handle it. He couldn't
mhm.
handle me. He couldn't like guide me. He couldn't really guide me through the things I needed to be guided through. And so he would put me in the hospital, and he'd like turn the responsibility over to the hospital. And
Absolutely.
it was like a never-ending cycle, because first my parents turned me over to the hospital and the doctor, then the doctor would turn me over to the hospital, and then the hospital would just pump me up with drugs and send me back out on my way and everything. But one thing I wanted to say about exactly what you're talking about is I'm doing a lot of wealth development with this guy named Kevin Trudeau, who was in a very high level secret society for like 30 years, and he's like come out and basically started revealing the Illuminati, the Brotherhood, all these big secret societies, and he's gotten in a lot of trouble because he's revealing secrets that that the and methods that these secret societies use in order to like maintain their control. And because everybody who's like everybody basically who like the Gates and even Elon Musk probably, and all these billionaires and all these multi millionaires, they're all in like secret societies. I mean, the Masons is another one that's like known and everything. But so basically, I won't go into this too deeply, but he says there are basically four steps that like these secret societies follow for teaching and learning and everything. And the first most basic one is, who do you listen to? And I listened to Kevin Trudeau because not only has he been there, but he's been to the heights of like wealth and and everything. But also he honestly says, all these people, right? Donald Trump, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, they don't write their books. They just like tell their ideas to a ghostwriter, and the ghostwriter writes the book. But to really find like real gold, and like get a success book, or how to get rich book. He uses the analogy of like in the 80s, and real estate, and how so many people like made a fortune telling people how to make a fortune in real estate, and they'd never made like $2,000 in real estate, but they got a fortune because they were telling people, how to get rich, and they had never done it themselves. So that's one reason I respect Grant Cardone so much, is he's done the real work. He's become a real estate billionaire, and and you really gotta like figure out who you're going to listen to, because there's so many imposters and, as you say, charlatans that are willing to take your money and like give you nothing. And for a while I was taking all sorts of like success courses and everything, and I never saw a penny come back from all the trainings I did. And it's just like, and now I found Kevin Trudeau, and he has a great program called Your Wish Is Your Command, which is like a basic 13-hour program, where he like really reveals like some of the basic secrets of these secret societies. But these secret societies are the elites that are really running the world, and they all have like the same methods of learning and teaching and everything, and mentoring. And so you got to really like look at who you're dealing with. I mean, that's why I don't worry about like not having any clients or anything, because I know I'm the real thing when it comes to mentoring for mental health, and I know that people will find me when they need to. Everybody says when the student's ready, the teacher will appear, but my philosophy is, when the mentor's ready, the clients will appear. So I'm not worried about like find and I've been very fortunate to be able to have the wealth to be able to like not have to worry about money, that much. So, but just to summarize, who are you listening to? Who do you want to teach you the secrets that you want to find out? Because there's so many, 99% of the people who you're going to try to find are not the real thing, and that's just something to bear in mind, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you. For sure, I agree with you with this. Absolutely. I mean, you just go online sometimes, you listen to things and people, and you listen to the delivery, and they know exactly how to deliver that message so that you come back for tomorrow, and get some more of it. And what they do is a very fancy way of keeping you where you are, because if you would change, you would now change the person who you would listen to. So what I mean is, if you suffer from a mental illness, or like anxiety, depression, things like that, you're in despair, all you want to listen to is to someone who understands you, right? Someone who understands you, who will tell you that what you feel is okay, and we understand where you're at. So you need the reassurance every single freaking day. Yeah, I'm okay, there's nothing wrong with me, because another gazillion people have the same thing. So let me just go back tomorrow and listen to this again, so that I'm okay, and I don't have to worry too much about it. Yes, it sucks where I'm at, but hey, those people are telling me every day how that all feels, and so it makes it okay to be there, right? Because now you're a part of a big group, and you might send a comment out, there's a bunch of comments there, everybody's the same, everybody's is where you're at, right? So the message they will give you is completely the same every single day, just in different ways. But the message is, just stay right there where you are, come back tomorrow, because I'm gonna tell you more of how you feel, right? Which is really a way of anchoring your pain deeper, 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 and deeper,
Right.
and making your identity something that now you believe you are. Where if you change the message and you would help person get out of that place, all of a sudden tomorrow you will not come back to me. You will not come back to me, because now you're out of that, and now the person you need to listen to is someone who will tell you how to go from there to there. So it's a more of a positive and more of a proactive kind of, probably, you know teacher, mentor, whatever, right? Yet society doesn't do that. Society does not do that, because they rather have you where you're at, so they can increase their revenue. It's like you're saying, right? I'm going to sell you something that I have never done in my life, and I'm going to sell you that so you can stay right there, and you just keep on drinking the Kool-Aid with me, right? Yet your life ain't going to change one iota. And I can't give you the next step, because otherwise you ain't gonna come to me, and I'm gonna miss out. Where I find that to be so crazy and so selfish, because if you have gone through some shit like this, like anxiety, depression, like yourself, schizophrenia, this, that, the other, why in the hell would you want someone else to stay there? And instead, why would you not give them a way out? Or it's like, I put out a post the other day about, if you want to overcome anxiety, find the reason, and address it and move on, right? That's the only way you can move on. Find the reason why you're anxious, and someone reaches out, and said, oh, that's not helping, because you're not telling how to find the reason. I'm like, dude, people are not that stupid like you think they are, right? People are not that stupid. I don't need to tell person. Now, find the reason, and to find the reason is do A, B, C, D. That's bullshit. That is me. That is me offending someone else's intelligence, and I will not do that. All I can tell you is find the freaking reason, which I know you know, because even though we want to deny it, because obviously it's less painful and it makes you feel like a way of not having responsibility in it. But you know the reason. We all know the reason why we are the way we are, why we are unhappy, why we are stressed, why we are this, why we are that. We know, we all know, right?
Right.
Yet when you hear this type of comments, it's like, dude, there's no ABC of how to find the reason why you're feeling anxious or depressed. You just that requires just one thing, and it's honesty, and authenticity. It's like, fuck, I'm feeling depressed and anxious. What's the reason, man? Why am I here? And then be honest. That's why. And
Well,
when you know that, then you can address it. Now you can do something about that, right? But of course, it's better to say to people, yeah, you're anxious, and do you feel this and this today? Yeah, that's because you got anxiety. All right, cool. Trust me, I know, because I'm freaking in agony every day, right? But that's the world we live in, hence the whole pseudo spirituality people as well. There's a gazillion of those as well. You sometimes got to listen to their podcast. It's freaking unbelievable. It's like two enlightened being lecturing the world on what life is about and whatever is, right? Because they most of the time they can't be sober for a moment. They can't be without any antigen within themselves to just function, normal,
without filters.
Without filters, right? It's like, man, you're always on something. I know people, they go from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. They never hear. Dude, are you here ever? Like, man,
Right.
are you know what I mean? Where do you pay rent? Where do you pay rent? And that's exactly what this work isn't about. It's not about this at all. So you gotta,
I just want to say, Rodolfo, that's one of the reasons I'm like so grateful that I get to do the show with you and everything, because I see your posts and I just say, you're trying to bring real enlightenment to people and saying, you got to face yourself. You can't I mean that's what 99% of the problems with the world is victim mentality and everybody looking to blame somebody else for their own problems. And but I mean, it pains me because I see your posts and I just like totally agree with them and everything. And I see you have no likes and like two people are watching them, and it's like, I don't know how many people I get to watch. People watch me either, but it's like if you tell the truth, if you speak the truth, then people run away from you, and it's just like it pains me because you want to help people so much, and people are so reluctant to get the help they need. They just, as you say, they just want to be comforted in knowing they're part of a group that's suffering. And it's just like, why? I mean, because ultimately nothing's going to get better until people start taking, realize the interior reflects the exterior is a reflection of the interior, and until they realize that their inner world is creating everything that's in the outer world. And I just like it's like I don't get that upset about it, but it's just like when I see you have like two people viewing you, and it's just like, and such valuable information, it just like gets me pissed off and pains me, to tell you the truth.
I appreciate what you're saying, but obviously the account is super new, so I think I come in close to 100 people down from 16,000 before the hack and whatever. So it's pretty much a new account. Obviously, the algorithm is not my friend and so on. But you know what, brother? I tell you one thing. You know, it's humble beginnings, right? It's like at the moment, I just restarted my Facebook, brand new. I had 9,000 people in my Facebook page. I got zero now, right? It got hacked, fucking both of them, Instagram and Facebook, you know, in a matter of 6-7 months apart. And so starting all over again. Now, the question is this: will I keep posting even though nobody's watching? And that's one thing that I always ask my clients or people I get to talk to. I say, who are you when nobody's watching? Who the fuck are you when nobody's watching? Nobody's liking your shit. Nobody's giving you a heart or a thumb up or a fucking whatever. Who are you then? You know, for me, this is a humble experience and another test. There's one thing that I learned from Tyber Lopez, and he always said, remember to do the humble test, the humility test. Humility test once every 2 weeks, at least once a month. How humble are you? You know, he always told me that. Do the humility test regularly and check in with your humility. You know, and for me, once, you know, now that my accounts have been hacked, it's kind of like you're starting all over again. Nobody's gonna watch your shit. Are you keep posting? Will you keep posting? Will you post the things that are congruent with who you are, or will you fall into the trap of becoming mainstream? Will you share your voice, or will you adapt your voice just to be liked? That's the bigger question. And you know, I believe that perseverance will pay off. It just will. And so for me, when I put out a post, I don't give two shits who watches. I don't give two shits what if they like it or not like it. This is who I am. And all I want to do is leave something behind and show up. One day this thing will change. And one day the right people will start to listen. It's like I can promote a psychedelic experience and my thing will be filled. Trust me, when I promote my work, it shakes fucking people's ass. It's like, fuck. You know, that shit is going to be challenging. There's no bells and whistles. You want to come for the hugs? Wrong place. You want to come for a cliquey environment? Wrong place. Ain't going to happen. What you will come to is to yourself. Something sacred. Something that will have your back, will have will be there if you need it, and so on and so forth. You can come, leave your family at home, and tell them, I will be back in 6 days, and nothing will have changed, in a meaning of nothing will be wrong with me. Nothing, you know, I will come home as I left, hopefully a little bit more polished. That's the thing, you know, yet the experience today is, man, I had a guy fly in actually from the northern part of Australia. And about 2 months ago, he went to Costa Rica to one of those, the big well-known retreat centers with pool, this, that, the other, which this work has no do with that stuff. This work is basic, simple, very, very, very little amenities and stuff. It's the moment of detachment to all of that, right? But today, the retreat centers that charge you freaking 7, 8, 9 grand US to go to, they're going to give you the psychedelic experience. They're going to give you the pool. They're going to give you the massages, the yoga, and all this bullshit. Right. That is only a way for you to feel in a holiday while doing some,
spiritual work.
Right. Of course, the work is powerful. Of course, there are, in those places, I can say there are legit shamans that are, holding the spaces and so on. Yet the around that is what does not work, because when you have an experience like that, the least thing you need is the pool, the cliquey environment, the freaking guy that is now lecturing you on life in a place where you are so susceptible and you should be left alone and in your own thoughts and finding your own way. All of this goes on, right? So this man came to our retreat now, and yes, he had a good experience in one of those places, as in he was again also rock bottom, went there because he thought this is my only chance, and he bypassed everything else. Yet he realized when he came and worked with us, it's like, shit, now I get what this work really is about. It's not about the bells and whistles. It's not about the comforts. It's not about, all of these, groups of, everybody's like fucking 9% fat. Everybody's a freaking yoga guru or this. Everybody's like, look at me, look at me. And he was sharing about the conversation that were being held, on the tables, while having breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Everybody's just bragging. And he's like, man, that was so crazy. And it made me feel so out of line, or it made me feel like, fuck, I don't belong in this place because
Right.
look at these people. They're all freaking enlightened being. Where instead he said, day 4, day 5, all the Rolexes will come out, all the keys of the cars, even though the cars was like fucking thousands of miles away, came out. It was all a bragging thing, you know what I mean? And he's like, fuck, that was so crazy, because at the day one, everybody wanted to be so humble and so, oh, look at this. And all of a sudden, the big things come out, and it's like,
Right.
whoa, shit. Now it's a competition again, And that room, this work has no room in that place. It literally doesn't. But that's, the good thing about it is when you have people like that who do go to MAVs, who do go to those, very well known and pushed retreats, and then they come to do the work like I do when I go overseas, which I'm actually scheduled to go in a couple of months as well. It's a humble freaking place. There's no bells and whistles. It's just you. There's a person who will facilitate the experience, so you can go in a safe way, and will step away, and it's you doing the work, and hopefully come back to the real ceremony, and then live up to what you learned and share what you have learned and the way you are becoming, not by chatting about it, by being just slightly a little different, that can inspire someone else to find hope and trying to understand, wow, what changed for this person. There's something about this person, that really is calling and stuff like that. So that's really what the ancient way, the archaic way of shamanism is.
I agree. Well, that's what I was saying. What you said about starting over and beginning from the beginning and everything. I understand exactly what you're saying with that. But but the bottom line is, everybody says they want to do the work, but when you actually get them to do the work, they rebel. And
Good one.
and it's like okay, I did my work in 15 hospitalizations because I was doing squat in the program. I was just like, like talking to my doctor every day or 3 times a week and doing group therapy. But the real work I did was in the hospital, where I was fighting for my sanity. I was fighting to avoid long-term hospitalization or being put on the back ward for like 15 years. And I think this is a good place to wrap it up. But I'm doing a course with this doctor named Dr. Bill Pettit, and he's into the three principles, which are, I won't go into that, but basically he's like a master, like helping people have spiritual revelations to get out of mental illness. I mean that's really like his cup of tea and everything. So he tells this story about, he was talking to a group in a state hospital and like Iowa or something, some out of the way place and everything, and he's just talking, and this guy who'd been hospitalized for like 45 years, been in the same hospital for 45 years, just starts laughing. and he's laughing hysterically, and you know how like laughter can get contagious, and this guy was just like laughing like so hysterically for like 10, 15 minutes, and he gets the whole room of like people with a mental illness like laughing, and Dr. Bill's laughing too and everything, and finally after things have calmed down, he says, you know what's so funny? I mean, that was great, but could you tell us what you found so funny? And the guy just like looks at him and says, I realize that I've been driving myself crazy for the last 45 years. Which gets back to, the lady who said, I'm responsible for my own happiness. But just to have that revelation after 45 years that your thoughts and what you're thinking is what drove you psychotic for 45 years and like put you in the hospital for 45 years. And basically the guy like not only got off medication, but he was out of the hospital within 6 weeks, and now he's living a normal life and everything. But what I'm saying is, people say they want to do the work, and they're willing to like do all these woo woo courses and everything, but when it comes down to it, they're scared because they have to face themselves. And I was in a hospital 15 times, and one thing I say, I was hospitalized 15 times and I was discharged 15 times, and that's like really a point of pride for me because they never got me long term. And I've been on my own basically since 1981 in this apartment and everything, and I mean, I'm living the life of Riley compared to like what could have become of me. And but I did the work, and that's why I'm so dedicated to helping family caregivers of those with schizophrenia, because I can be a mentor. I'm in that's way, and I'm in, I do financial services too. But that's another calling that I've like adopted more and more, because the idea is service and to be humble and to help people deal with the challenges that they have to deal with. And ultimately, mental illness is like a very esoteric field, but everybody needs financial help. Everybody can like be better with money and everything. So that's why I've like adopted that. And I know we've talked about this at length over time, but that's why I'm like that, still dedicated to my financial services, because what I say is my company is seeking to serve the 98% of Americans who can't afford a financial advisor. So, and there are 2% who are mentally ill. So I say between those 98% and my 2%, I'm serving 100% of the population. So, but ultimately, that's what I respect so much about your Instagram account. I haven't followed you on Facebook yet, but your Instagram account is, you're telling the truth. You're telling people what they have to do, and if nobody wants to listen, then that's not on you. And that's the same way I feel about what I do. If nobody wants to listen, then that's on them, because I'm giving them the ability to help themselves. And you might be starting out again, and as I say, it pains me to see so few people listening to you, but on the other hand, I know ultimately people will listen to you, and you attract the audience that you need. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, you go.
I was just going to say we're at an hour and a half, so I don't know if you want to close this down, but I wanted to like I sent you some poems, and recently that I've written, but I was thinking that I'd like to start with my introductory poem, which is something that I wrote like probably 10 years ago, but it's a Dale, which is like my own form, but it's like 6 words a line, 2 sets of 9 rhymes apiece, and basically autobiographical. But I just want to like introduce myself again through that, and say I'm Dale Walsh and you're Rodolfo DeAngeli, and it's always a pleasure to work with you. And I know that we will attract the people that we need to see us, and So should I close with my poem, which is called Dale Reviewing What Actually Happened?
I think we should do that. Actually, let me just say one thing before that. The moment you said before, when people want to do a gazillion courses, but then don't take action because they realize they have to do the work. It is absolutely true. Everybody wants to be free of anxiety, depression, and despair and sadness and whatever. Yet, it's that moment where they have to face themselves, like you said. And often I use the analogy, it's, people tell about, the slaying of the dragon. It's like, to be able to go to the other side, you got to slay the dragon, right? Yet I realize over the years now that that dragon, or that moment you arrive to that dragon and you think, man, that's the thing I got to slay. Once that is done, I'm good. Oftentimes, what people then eventually realize is that the dragon has their own head. It's themselves. And now
Right.
what will you do? Will you slay yourself, or will you embrace yourself? That's a very different question, right? It's like, will you kill that, like you thought you have to, or will you embrace that because that is you too? And if you will kill that part of yourself, that will just leave a void which will be unable to fill again. So that embracing, and that self forgiveness, and that self acceptance, and that allowing of the realization, oh wow, I am responsible for my own happiness. I craved it so much, and I hoped everybody will give it to me. Yet I realize now that I am responsible for that. That's the moment you embrace yourself and say, you know what, I got this. Or like you were saying about the other person, that you were sharing. Am I doing that, or do I need to take responsibility now and just carry on with my life? And all of a sudden, 40 years is being healed in that realization, that moment of authenticity and honesty, where compared to the guy that reaches out and said, oh, you didn't give me the ABC on how to find the reason. Dude, you know the reason. I don't have to, I don't have to disrespect your intelligence, because
Right.
if you look into it, you know what the reason is that you are suffering. But yeah, so that is, yeah, I find this to have been a really cool chat with you as
And
always, brother.
before I do my poem, I'll just respond to that, and that's what I call the Beowulf dilemma, which is if you slay the dragon has a mother and children who you have to slay too, and it's just like is like a snowballing effect. So what you said is exactly true. You got to embrace the dragon within yourself, and I mean I didn't start getting better till I embraced my psychosis and realized that my delusion. I had to like live with my delusion and deal with it that way rather than just saying it's not happening. So should I do my poem now? How does that
You
sound?
shall, brother, you shall.
Okay, it's called Dale Reviewing What Actually Happened. And it goes, Hi, I'm God was a joke I made after Killer Dartmouth took and some Primo Ivy League smoke, which apparently caused me to croak because in mysterious hospital I awoke, with Roomy Gabriel, the main bloke who did my delusions angelically stroke. While doctors say my brain broke the moment divine gag I spoke, testifying I was only big quack, which clinicians diagnosed as psychotic attack, preventing me from getting his sanity back until I came to Teaneck Hackensack to pursue resident therapy program track and deal with my evident lack of reason among psychiatric patient pack who never gave me any slack. Under interrogation, the story didn't crack.
Nice one, bro. I like that. I like that, man. I like that. So, wow, 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 wow.
Let me just say one last thing that I saw on you on Instagram today. It's this black lady who I follow, and she just had her car repossessed, and she had all her belongings in the car, and she's with her roommate and everything, and she and she got like the $3,000 to pay for the repossession back, but then they said that she had to pay $20,000 to just pay for the car because apparently it was at the end of the lease or something. So But she came on today on Instagram and said, you are invincible, you are indestructible. And, if you have God in your life, you are indestructible. And the reason things happen like this is they're trying to crack you. They're trying to break you down. But if you're indestructible, then they can't break you down. And that's the way how I look at my hospitalization, because every time Doc put me in, he was expecting. I don't know if this is really true, but it was a test of whether I was going to be able to overcome. And I always said, that indestructible. When that lady said that today, just really hit me. And I know we're over time, but Rodolfo, it's been great. I loved your recap of the retreat, and as ever, it's always a great pleasure to be able to work with you.
I love you, man. It's yeah, I appreciate you, brother. And doing these chats Saturday morning are definitely a highlight of the week. And yeah, I love just keeping it honest and authentic, sharing ourselves the way we are, not the way we want to be seen as, and hopefully we can inspire within others to do the same. Just be yourself. That's way enough. So, brother, I appreciate your poems. I appreciate your presence, your wisdom, and yeah, for allowing me to do this with you. So yeah, man, you have a freaking amazing rest of the week. You're still Friday night, so you can still do whatever. For me, it's Saturday, 12:30 p.m. So see what we're gonna do today. But yeah, you stay well, brother, and yeah, we'll chat to you next week for sure.
Okay, well, have a great one, and thanks a lot for everything, Rodolfo. You're an inspiration.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, man. Everybody watching, listening, we love you. We couldn't do that without you. Please like, subscribe, leave some comments. Let us know what you would like to listen to, or what we would like to, what you would like us to speak about. We appreciate you all, and we'll be back. Ciao.